Good evening, everyone. Today, I'm going to present a demo on the ReactJS. Moving on to myself, so a senior training consultant as well as a senior technical trainer. And I have closely worked with many corporate trainings as well as for the corporate and the retail industry. So basically into edutech sector as well as with the corporate industry. And also I have worked with many end-to-end applications, which has been worked with React, Node.js, basically Express and MongoDB. So I also have created quite few projects on the MERN stack, right? So that's about me, and I have around 6 years of experience in this training industry. So that's about me. And to move on into the demo, right? So today I'd be discussing how to get starting with React. So how to install your React app and how to create your UI components. So we'll try to see how to create a very simple React component. And let us understand like what is the scope and advantage of React.js over other frameworks, right? So that is also important, right? So because React.js is a framework which is used for building your front end, right? So when we say front end, we have like our web applications. It contains two things, right? So one is your front end and one is the back end. So React basically is going to deal with creating your front end libraries. So we'll see how to install it, how to create the components, and we'll understand what is the scope and advantages of React. So let us get started with that. Later, I'll take you through what is the outline of the course and other things. So let's get started. So as you can see, I'm going to use a Visual Studio Code for creating the React application. So there are few dependencies for installing your React app. So React app is basically going to run on your Node runtime. Okay, so before installing React, make sure you're going to install your Node.js. So Node.js, like how you can install is just go to your nodejs.org. So this is the official website of Node.js. So just go on to nodejs.org and download the LTS version. So just download this, right? So it will install this installer, right? So as usual, how you install the normal softwares, you can install Node application, right? So this is the dependency which is used for creating your React application. So once this is done, what you can do is just create a folder. Okay, I have just created it as demo 1702. Just pull that folder to your Visual Studio Code, right? So you can create it on your system, right? So let us say you're creating it on the D drive. You can create that folder and just pull that folder here through your Visual Studio Code. So just click on File, Open Folder, and open that folder here. You will get that empty folder here, right? So now let us install React. So React basically, we are going to install a template. Okay, so a template is, it will be installed by an npm installer, which is basically a node package manager, right? So you can install this React application through this node package manager, and it will create you the basic template of how you're going to work with React. Okay, so I suggest you this option. So just click on terminal and click on new terminal. And write down here, just give this command npx create -react -app and give your project name. Okay, so you can give any project name. So let me say I'm going to give it as React project. So let it install. So it will take quite some time to install the application, right? So meanwhile, we'll discuss something on React. So I was telling about the scope and what is the advantage, right? So we'll see what is the scope and why we can use React over the other frameworks, why it is very popular, right? So let it install meanwhile. So now for creating that, right? So I can see it's creating a new app in this folder, right? So it will create all the dependencies. Okay. So I'll take you through what is the folder structure where you have to start working with the application. So everything I'll take you through. What is the advantages of React? What is basically React, right? So let it install in the background. Now let us talk something about React, right? So I told you already, React is a framework which is meant for creating your front end, right? So front end means you're going to create your UI components, that is user interface components, right? So basically, it's going to be looking like your JavaScript, and what convention of JavaScript we are going to use is a ES6 convention, right? So we call it as a ECMAScript standard, right? So this is the modern JavaScript standard, which is the recent version. So this will be used with your React, right? So React JS, right? By the name, it's React JavaScript. So React has like it's going to use the syntax, it's going to use the runtime environment of JavaScript only, right? So I'll be using some ES6 convention, which you'll be learning in the actual curriculum. Talking about React, no? So it's used for building your UI components, right? So it's done. Just your UI, nothing with your backend, right? And also in terms of reusability, right? So you can build your reusable components, right? Say for example, you are building a web application. The navbar is a component. It's a UI element which will be there in the entire application, right? So it's going to be present, let us say, in the home page as well as in the products page or in the checkout page. In all the pages, you are going to have the same navbar, right? So you're going to build some reusable components using React. Okay, so it is very easy to reuse. That is one thing. And the second thing, how React is going to build your components is using something called as a JSX. Okay, so we call this JSX as JavaScript plus XML, right? So you know what is XML, right? So XML is going to create the user-defined tags. So HTML basically has predefined tags. You cannot create your own tags. So XML is meant for creating your own tags with your own behavior, but configuring your XML files is a bit tedious, right? So, but React makes it very simple with JSX. So what we'll do is you will write components, okay, using JSX, which will look similar to your HTML, and also it is user defined. You can define your own JSX elements. You can define your own tags. Okay, to be very simple, you're going to create your own tags and you can define your own properties. Okay, so it's going to use JSX. So JSX will more or less look like your HTML. So it's like you're writing HTML directly on your JavaScript file, right? So you don't need to use any DOM methods, right? So you don't need to use document.create element, again adding it to the DOM tree. These things are not required. Okay, so you can directly create a HTML-like tag, a HTML-like syntax on your React application. So JSX is also good to use. It's easy to develop. And the next important thing is your virtual DOM, right? So what we call as a virtual DOM is, you know that, like, let us say I'm creating a HTML file, right? So I'm going to create a web page which is going to display some, let us say a heading, some image and a link, right? Now you want to change something on the page which has already been rendered. Okay, so you have already executed that. You got the output on the web page. It's not dynamic, right? It's going to be static. You cannot change anything on the file unless and until you are writing a JavaScript, right? So through JavaScript, you can update your DOM, right? So you can modify something on your DOM. If you want to add something, if you want to remove something, you can do that with the DOM methods. So that is how you will work with JavaScript. But what like happens in that case is DOM will be very slow, right? So when you're trying to manipulate your DOM elements using your let us say a DOM method like create element or append child, it's going to update the entire DOM once again. Okay, so I'll give you a very simple example of this. Okay, so there is an interpreter, okay, which is basically your HTML DOM viewer. Just a minute, HTML DOM viewer. Meanwhile, I'll check what's the process with the installation. I think it's still taking time. So see this one, it's just a simple rendered view of how your DOM would look like. Okay. So let us say here I'm going to write a very simple HTML. Okay, HTML, close the HTML tag. And I'll just directly do on with the body. Okay, you can, like, the head part, right? So you can also create head part, but I'm just concerned with what data we are creating. So I'm just working on my body of my HTML. So I'm creating a H1, let us say ReactJS. Close your H1, right? So this is the rendered view, right? So this is how your DOM tree would look like. Okay, let us say you're writing a JavaScript which is going to update this title. Okay, whatever is already rendered, you're trying to modify it. Okay, I'm trying to change that value. So obviously you have to write a script. So what that script will do is it is going for this DOM tree, right? It will just come to this DOM tree and it is going to update the DOM tree here. Let us say this text is going to be changed. Okay, now let us say there are few other nodes. Okay, there are n number of nodes here. I'm just creating one as an example. Okay, let me say this is JS, right? So how many nodes are there inside body? Two nodes are there. One is H1 and one is H2. Let us say when H1 is updating, right? When this H1 tag is updating, in normal JavaScript, like normally in DOM, right? Whatever language you use, if I want to update this node, okay, only this is getting updated. The other things are unchanged, right? So there is no update on H2 tag, right? So you're just updating the H1 tag alone. So in that case, is what will happen is logically what you do. Let us say you're having a house, right? So you have two or three rooms there. Okay, one room paint is not looking good, it's become dirty. You're going to clean that room and you're going to repaint that room alone. So only for renovating that room, you won't renovate the entire home, right? Not going to paint the other rooms which are fine, which are looking good, right? So it's something like that. But what DOM does is it's like you're going to repaint the entire home, right? So even one node is changing, I'm going to re-render everything. So that is not necessary at all, right? So it's enough if you just re-render this H1 alone. You can leave the other nodes undisturbed. But the real world DOM on your browser, it won't work like that. So that is where React is very popular and it is very faster. So React can identify which node is going to change and that node only will be re-rendered to the output. So that is the speciality of the React and we do it through a virtual DOM. Okay, so all these process we will see that when we go for the actual curriculum. So that is the use of a virtual DOM, right? So these are the reasons and features why we have to use React for building our front-end application. Okay, now let me just check this. All right, so it's installing still. Fine. So meanwhile, I'll just take you like now you understood what is the features of React and what is the advantage of using it, right? Now let us see like about our course content, like what we will be discussing. Okay, so let this install. We have to wait for that installation. So meanwhile, I'll just take you through what are the course contents we are going to discuss here. So this is the course outline. So basically first we have to understand what is ES5 and ES6. So having said already, I told you that JavaScript is going to use a ES6 convention, right? So we will discuss what is ES6, what are the ES6 conventions we'll be using with React, and we will see what is React, what are the other features, how to install, like I had shown you that already, and how to create your basic components with React, what are functions, and we'll understand something like how the React application works, what is the life cycle, right? And advanced topics like hooks, right? So all these things we'll be discussing in React. So basically with components, we'll discuss, there are two types of components. One is a class component and one is a functional component. So both we'll be discussing. Okay, so you'll understand when we go into the curriculum. So basically you're going to learn how to build component in two ways. One is using class, one is using a function, and all the other concepts related to that. So something like conditional rendering, Redux, right? So how to create state, how to handle your events, how to handle your forms, all these things we'll discuss. And along with that, so advanced topics like hooks and how to route with hooks also I'm going to discuss. So you will get some clarity on hooks because hooks is very popular nowadays. Okay, so with functional components, it's very popular. So we'll also discuss that. And additionally, we'll also be providing you the resume building session. So how to build your resume in case if you're experienced or in case if you're a fresher. So according to that, we will be guiding you through how to build your resume, how to build your portfolios. And if you have any issues with installation or let us say you're working on some module, you're working on some application, you're getting some errors, we'll live troubleshoot it. And also I'll give you some web resources and PDF books for the supporting documents for learning React. These are the things, and these are some, like I have listed only few projects here. So one good project is you'll be creating a news application using React. Like let us say you're searching for some news. Let us say you're searching for React updates. So you will get a news relevant to that. So you'll create a counter application, and we'll see how to create a sign up and a sign in form using your React forms. Also, you'll be doing an image search engine. There are a lot of projects we are going to work. Okay, these are some very important, prominent projects you're going to do here. And what are the system requirements is we require any processor above i5 or preferably i3 is okay, right? So, and I suggest you to have Windows OS above 8 because Node will work better with Windows version above 7, not 7, above 7. Okay, so 8 and 10 is good to have. Okay, so you don't need to have 11 also, but 8 to 10 is okay, right? So other things, it's fine, right? So your hard disk memory, it's fine, right? So once your session is done, we also give you mock interviews, like how to attend interviews for React. What are the questions, like what are the repeated questions they'll ask you for React.js or JavaScript? And also we'll try to give you a constructive feedback, how what are the areas you can work on and how you can improvise your skills, right? So at the end, you will be getting our course completion certificate. That's what we wanted to tell about this, right? So all about your curriculum, what are the projects you're going to attain, and what are the additional resources you're going to get. Okay, so that's with the actual thing. Now we have to check on how to work with the React application. So this is done, right? So all these things, right? So I hope you're clear with the course outline and all the other things. Now let us go on into the actual hands-on, right? So this is how your React project is going to look like, right? So this is the project name we gave. So initially when I pulled this project, you would have seen that it has not created anything on the application, right? But now you can see it's creating a lot of packages and files here, right? So let us first understand what is the React project structure, where you're going to like let us say where you're going to work actually, where you're going to update and create your code. Okay. So first I'll just run and show how to like how to run your application. We'll see. So first you have to get into the folder where you have installed React. So whatever project name we created in that npx command, right? So I gave npx create React app space and project name, right? So we have to get into that project name. So just give cd space that project name. So in our case, it's going to be React project, right? So just give cd space React project. So now you can see the path is set to drive demo/React project. Now we are good to start the application. So to just run your application, give npm space start. Okay, you can see both the commands here. You just follow that, you'll get it. Okay, so just give npm start. So it will start the local server. You will get the application on your local server. Okay, so let it run and we'll get it. Later we'll change that code there and we'll write our custom components. So it's starting, right? So it's just creating those setups. First, we'll see the output and learn what are the things it has installed. So you can see this messages down here, right? So it will say compile successfully, right? And once after that, you'll see this CRA template. Okay, this is what we call it as create React app template. So this is the boilerplate. Okay, we'll make some changes and we'll start creating our application on this. Okay, so if you get this, it means that React has successfully installed to your system. Okay, now let us see what are components, how to create the components. Before that, we'll understand this folder structure, right? So you can see different folders here. One is node modules, one is public SRC, and git ignore file, log file, and a package.json file. Okay, this git ignore file is with GitHub. You don't need to worry what it is. So what happens with node modules is, so it will install all the dependencies. Okay, so dependencies like Babel. Okay, you will have React, right? So all the modules, whatever you require for creating your component, will be installed by your npm into this node modules. Okay, so there are many things like many modules, dependencies. We'll see that in the curriculum. So what are the modules you'll be using, why it is used for, and all. So I'll take you through the basic modules today. Okay, so all the dependencies will be installed in your node modules. So the second one is public. So we don't need all these files, like you have this favicon, PNG file and all, right? So you can just delete it because it's related to that CRA template. Okay, so only thing what you should have is that index.html file alone. Okay, other than that, we are not going to use that CRA template. So you can just start removing all the things which is not required. Just retain that index.html file alone. Okay, so that's done. Now, this is your HTML. Okay, only one HTML file you will be having in your React app, right? So it won't have any content, right? So if you see the body, there is nothing, right? So you just have a div container which is empty, and but see that id alone. Okay, the id is root. Okay, so you're going to create your like, let us say, components using JavaScript only. Okay, through React. You're not going to write anything on the HTML file, so you don't need to disturb this index.html file. Now coming on to SRC, I'll just have this index.js file alone. I'm going to delete the other things. Okay, so let us delete this app.css. So everything is related to that template basically. Okay, we are not going to use it for our application. So I'm just removing everything down and just retain that index.js alone. Okay, for every folder you can see that index file is your entry point. Okay, so you should not delete that. It's fine, you can delete, you can create it again, but since it's a starter thing, I'm just going to show in the application itself. Okay, so let me just save this. Okay, now you can remove all these lines. So I'll just remove everything down. So we'll create a component now. Okay, so we'll see how to create a very simple component. So first we have to use React component and React DOM. So I told you two things already, right? So one is React component, that is like the basic JSX writing. All the syntax will be there in your React. And if you want to render it to the output, you should use a DOM. So that is what we call it as a virtual DOM. That is basically React DOM. So we have to import these two things from the node modules. So how to import is using import statement. So the syntax is just give import React. So first thing you have to import React from React. So what it will do, it will import all the dependencies directly from your node modules. Okay, so that is the first package you have to import. The second one is your React DOM. So the same way import React DOM from React DOM. Okay, so it's not from React, it's from React DOM, from React DOM. Now using this DOM only, you're going to render the output. Okay, that is you're going to render your component. So how to render is using a method called as render. Okay, so just call this React DOM. So React DOM dot render. Okay, the method is render. So this render method will basically take two inputs. Okay, so the first input is what is the JSX element you are going to render, and the second is where you are going to render it. So like you don't need to worry what is JSX, you'll understand it later. For now, it's just going to look like your HTML tag. So I'll just write a H1 tag here. Let us say React app. Okay. And I told you again, the second argument should be where we are going to render it, right? So you have to tell which place. So if you remember, we have created an empty ID, empty div container in the index.html file, right? So you're going to use this place to render that h1. So automatically it will be rendered down here. So I'm going to just select that using document.getElementById. I'll just push this down. Okay, so document.getElementById. And what is the ID we have created there? It's root, right? So just give root. Okay, save this now. So what it is going to do, it's just going to render this h1, that is your JSX, to that div tag, right? So I just saved it, so it will automatically update. Now you can see it's giving that React app to the output, right? So this is how you create a very simple component. Okay, so if you want to give many elements, you can give it here. But one rule with JSX is, in JSX, you cannot render multiple elements at a time. Okay, so you have to enclose everything inside some parent container and you can render it. So let us say, I'll show that. Okay, let us say, I'm going to give another h2 element. Okay, let us say h2 demo. Now you can see it's in red line because this whatever you're writing in this render is a JSX. It's not normal HTML. So it will expect you to enclose everything inside a parent container. So two options are there. Either you can enclose it with the div tag. So I'm just writing div and put it down here. So why is it is JSX can only return only one tag at a time. Okay, so just enclose that inside a div. Okay, you can see it will be updated, or you can use a React empty fragment. So you don't need to give anything. We call this as an empty fragment. Okay, so either ways you can use it. So this is using an empty fragment. You'll get the same output. So this is a JSX. So you will also see how to create your own user-defined JSX later. Okay, so this is just looking like tags, right? So you can also, I told you already. So XML is you will be defining your tags. So the same way you can also write your own like user-defined JSX elements in the render method as well, right? So this is the first component which we have created. Now, when we talk in terms of reusability, right? So I told you you can reuse this component. So if I want to repeat the same thing, okay, let us say you have some product catalog. It is the same format, right? It will have some image, it will have some title, some rating. That will be repeated for all the products, right? So if you want to create a reusable component, you should not directly write on your index file. You can create your components here, okay, inside the SRC. And all the files inside SRC should be having an extension .js or .jsx. Okay, so let me create one file and let me call it as app.js. Okay, so I'm just going to write a JavaScript function which is going to return a JSX. So I hope you already know how to write a function. So it's just function, and I'm giving a function name same as the file name. Okay, so function app. And what these component, like this is not a function now, we call it as a functional component. Functional component in React, it's going to return a JSX. Okay, so just write a return. Okay, I'm going to return what? I'm going to return this JSX. Okay, let us say these two lines. All right, so I'm just placing this here. Instead of writing it there, no, like I'm writing as a separate component so that I can reuse it. So the same rule, what is the rule? We have to enclose it inside the parent tag, right? So I'm using a fragment here. Let me just enclose it. Save this. Now we have to export this component. Okay, so let me save both the things. Yeah, so let us just save these two things, right? So if you want to use this component outside, right? So we have written the JSX here. We have to return that thing to this component, to the index.js. So we have to export this, okay? So it's very simple. Just place an export keyword before that function. Okay, save this. Now this one I'm going to use inside my index.js. Okay, so just give import and give that component name. That is your function name from that file name. Okay, so app. Whatever function I created there, it is imported here. And generally, how will you call your functions? You can call that component likewise, but inside the Angular braces. So I'll just call app, right? So once. So can you see now? Now I'm writing my own tag, right? Just like your XML. But the thing is, it's like you're calling the function. Okay, so app is basically a functional component. You're calling that here. So what it will do, it will return that JSX to the index.js. It will print that to the output. So now you can see it's the same output. So if you want to reuse it, every time I don't need to write that code. Simply what I can do, I can repeat it. I can call it any number of times I want. Right? So just save this, and it is refreshing. Now you can see it is repeated twice, but I didn't repeat the code, right? So this is how you write your simple React component. Okay, and whatever type of component I have created, it's your functional component. So I hope this session is clear. So if you have any questions or any queries, you can always get back to us. This is about our course and what are the outlines we have. So in today's session, we have discussed with how to install React, how to work with your components, what are the features of React, and we have created a simple functional component. Okay. So thank you so much for attending this demo. So if you have any questions or if you have any feedback or any queries related to our course and other things, you can please get in touch with us with the given information. Right. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye, all of you.